Thank you, Senator Toomey. Can you hear me? We're having some difficulties here.
We can see and hear you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate this opportunity. And I particularly want to thank State Senator Affy Ellis for joining us today from Wyoming. She is deeply involved in these issues, and the fact that she's willing to provide testimony today is deeply appreciated, as are our other Western witnesses, because the West experiences so many of the issues that are the subject of this hearing today. So my first question is for Senator Ellis. What percentage of natural gas and oil development comes from federal lands in Wyoming?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Senator Lummis, I believe that about 90+% from federal land, natural gas that's the origin, and then more than half, 50% of oil.
And I'm so glad that you had those numbers at the ready, because I don't think people understand how significant mineral production is on federal lands in Wyoming. So when there's a moratorium or a prohibition on producing minerals on federal land in Wyoming, that essentially removes 90% of our production. And since we are the largest net exporter of energy in the nation, it puts a tremendous burden on our education system, because such an important component of education funding in Wyoming comes from oil, gas, and coal development on federal land. So again, Senator Ellis, according to the Wyoming Department of Education, how much did the oil and gas industry contribute to Wyoming K-12 education in 2019?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ranking Member, and Senator Lummis, thank you. In 2019, the oil and gas industry delivered $1.67 billion to state and local governments. Of that, approximately $740 million went to our K-12 budget. As I mentioned in my written testimony, that's about half of our entire expenditure for K-12 education alone. We have about 90,000 students in Wyoming, and we finance our education system well. But it is more expensive to educate kids in rural areas. If you look at our larger cities, places like Cheyenne, we do see some efficiencies of economy, but when it comes to rural areas, there's no other substitute. So those dollars are critical for supporting rural America through our rural schools.
Well, thank you. And as you know, oil and gas industries can move. They can go to the Permian Basin where it's private land. And the only one that gets hurt is the state of Wyoming and our school kids. It doesn't hurt the oil and gas companies. It doesn't stop them from producing oil and gas. It only hurts Wyoming and the people who live there. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that a letter to President Biden from Wyoming Superintendent of Public Instruction, Jillian Balow, regarding the fiscal impact on Wyoming students and schools be entered into the hearing record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Ellis, how difficult has it been for the Wyoming legislature to adequately fund education over the last decade?
Funding education remains probably the biggest challenge that I'm working on in our horizon. As I mentioned, we have a $1.5 billion annual budget for K-12 operations, and right now we're looking at a $300 million structural deficit. Certainly the federal government has passed things like the American Recovery Plan Act. We've received that funding, but a lot of that comes with some strings. And so unfortunately, as we've been studying that issue and how to allocate that to our school districts to maintain equity and maintain our effort, I think at the end of the day, my biggest concern is that we're going to see our cliff actually grow, because we are really limited in our ability to rein in some of the spending on K-12 education. So we're looking at that act and trying to understand some of those challenges better, but that is the number one issue that I've been working on and that many of my colleagues are focused on going forward.
And how much of the state's tax revenue, including education funding, is projected to be lost from President Biden's moratorium?
So the Wyoming legislature is very concerned about any, moratoriums or drilling bans that affect our federal lands. Several years ago, we appropriated some dollars to commission a study. The University of Wyoming was selected, and a UW economist produced a report in December of 2020 The report statistics were sobering. Over the next 4 years, Wyoming looks like it would lose about $1 billion with the moratorium on new drilling lease activity. A full ban would be even more devastating. And to put that again in perspective, our annual operations for just the general fund of our government is 1.3 billion. This removal would really take out an entire year of us being able to fund our state government operations and more if the moratorium were to continue indefinitely, or if more dramatic steps occur in the future, which would ban drilling on federal lands outright.
I have so many more questions, Senator Ellis, but unfortunately my time is up. Thank you so much for your testimony, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Senator Lummis. Senator Ossoff from Georgia.